still be true. But now he's got a massive advantage. The Democratic Party has started working in earnest for Donald Trump, which is, and let's be honest about it, essentially what they've been doing. First, Democrats pursued an impeachment strategy that was so thoroughly dumb and nonsensical that in the end, it looked like a Republican plot. They literally impeached Donald Trump this week on Wednesday, and it helped him in the polls. Bizarre. But if that wasn't weird enough, Democratic office holders started saying things that seemed expressly designed to alienate and enrage American voters. And not close call stuff. Not, calling for tax increases that polls show people don't really want. We've seen that before. Mike Dukakis tried that 35 years ago. In the end, it didn't work, but you didn't get the feeling that Mike Dukakis was actively trying to lose the election. But that's not the case with Mayor Pete Buttigieg. At the Democratic primary debate last night, Buttigieg blew right past Mike Dukakis land and wound up in Leon Trotskyville. Buttigieg promised, and it's hard to believe this actually happened, but we have the tape, it did. Buttigieg promised to give reparations to illegal aliens. Take taxpayer money and send it to people who have no right to be here in the first place. He said that out loud. Watch this.
You said last month that the U.S. owes compensation to children separated from their families at the southern border. Are you committing, as president, to financial compensation for those thousands of children?
Yes, and they should have a fast track to citizenship. We have a moral obligation to make right what was broken.
Yes, and actually, we're going to buy each one of them a new car. What's the level of public support for what Pete Buttigieg just said? Could you even poll a number that small? It's like the faculty lounge at Wesleyan and like 2 zip codes in Manhattan, 1 in Brooklyn, and maybe a tiny census tract in Northern California. That's it. People are not for that. They're not for it at all because it's demented. But keep in mind that Pete Buttigieg's bill is a moderate in the race. The other moderate is leading the field. He's Joe Biden. And last night, Biden paid homage to the Green New Deal. He vowed to destroy hundreds of thousands of dollars in the name of climate theology, the theology of the private jet class. Watch.
3 consecutive American presidents have enjoyed stints of explosive economic growth due to a boom in oil and natural gas production. As president, would you be willing to sacrifice some of that growth, even knowing potentially that it could displace thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of blue-collar workers in the interest of transitioning to that greener economy?
The answer is yes. The answer is yes, because the opportunity for those workers to transition to high-paying jobs, as Tom said, is real.
They applaud. The second Biden said, am I going to screw blue-collar workers? Are you kidding? I can't wait. Am I going to take their jobs away and punish them? Absolutely. That's when applause broke out. So Elizabeth Warren's watched this, and she's getting nervous. Destroying jobs? Reparations for illegals? Whoa, wait a second. They're getting to the left of me all of a sudden. Didn't think that was possible. But Warren had a plan. First, she vowed to create an annual tradition. Again, we're not making this up. Of honoring murder victims. But not all murder victims. Just some murder victims. How will she know which murder victims? Totally depends on their skin color and whether they identify as transgender or not. Because in Elizabeth Warren's world, some murder victims are more worthy than other murder victims. Watch.
Here's a promise I make. I will go to the Rose Garden once every year to read the names of transgender women, of people of color who have been killed in the past year.
What about everybody else? All murders are bad. All murders are bad, whether they're of people of color, transgender women, it doesn't matter. They're all bad. But Elizabeth Warren brings identity politics even to commemorating the deaths of people who've been murdered. What a nutcase she is. And by the way, if that wasn't crazy enough, she also promised to let men transfer into women's prisons simply by asking to. For real, watch.
I will change the rules now that put people in prison based on their birth sex identification rather than their current identification.
It's a good thing the rest of the country is so completely terrified to tell the truth about anything. We're all so cowed that we have to sort of sit in silence and be like, oh, no, that sounds totally fine. Oh, yeah, all right. Because in a normal moment, in a normal country, people who say stuff like that would be laughed right off the street. What? Are you kidding? How would that work? Of course, what she just said would make the entire concept of women's prisons irrelevant. Why would we do something like that, and who would benefit? It's totally nuts. It's detached from reality. It would serve the whims of like 9 people at the expense of every other person in the country. And by the way, it's also denying biology, which is not something we're in charge of. It's nature. This is crazy. But this is the kind of thing Democrats have been saying for the last year as they jockey to become the Democratic nominee. Does anyone support this? Do people support putting men in women's prisons? Do they really support reparations for illegal aliens? Shutting down America's single most robust economic sector, energy? And by the way, do they really support free health care for illegal aliens? Letting convicted murderers vote from prison? How about identity politics? It doesn't matter what your color is, by the way. There's a lot of polling on this. Most people of all colors think identity politics is insane, because it is. It's an incitement to tribalism and worse. People aren't for that. By the way, people don't support wasting a year trying to impeach and remove a democratically elected president because he wanted to investigate Hunter Biden's corrupt deal. Whatever. All of this is crazy. So it doesn't matter who seems the most moderate or who's best looking or what color they are. It doesn't even matter. What matters is the things they're saying are crazy, and people aren't for them and will never be for them. Why are they doing this? Because the Democratic Party has been taken over by extremists. Instead of seeing ordinary Americans as their constituents, they see them as evildoers who must be punished.